What's up, everybody? John Remy here. I've been working on something new lately, just trying to build my craft and get better at composing for various types of media. And so, one of the things I've been working on and studying has been really trying to take away some of my orchestrations and keep it much more simple, keep it much more minimalist. And so, I've been watching a lot of indie films and just like documentaries and just films in general that have a more minimal approach in terms of their soundtracks. One of the soundtracks and films that I've been watching has been the film Origin, because I've been binging a lot of Kris Bowers' work lately. Just a big fan of his work and a big fan of the directors that he tends to work with. They're really, really incredible directors. This film really spoke to me on a deep level. It's also based on a book. The book, obviously, you should go read that. But if you don't have the time to, then you can go ahead and watch the film. And so anyway, without further ado, let's get into my cue. So I wrote a piece called Starting to Feel Again. And this piece is something that I just felt like would fit well within that film sound palette as well. And it has a little bit of emotional pull to it as well. So yeah, let me just go ahead and play it for you guys. Wow. Yeah. So anyway, man. Oh man, fatherhood has definitely made me more vulnerable. But anyway, so let's get started with breaking this track down. First and foremost, I had this chord progression in mind that I knew I wanted to use for sure, and so that's what I ended up going with. This chord progression at the very beginning. Okay, so pretty standard chord progression. I wanted to use that, but then I also have a motif that I'm kind of placing in different instruments here in, throughout the piece. I'm going to play that motif for you. At the end, you'll hear it in the piano, and then you hear it throughout the track also in other instruments, but here it is in the piano at the very end. It's a 3-note motif. Right, super simple, super chill. So that's what's going on. And so the motif right there is actually being thrown around, is being played right here with by the Celeste as well. So I'm going to play that in the section that it actually plays. It's a transformation of that motif, but similar idea. Okay, and then we also have that motif being played. So I'm throwing about everywhere basically. Had that motif being played by the alto flutes over here. Um, and then again. And then again here. So this motif is basically, in my mind, a call back to that feeling, right? This character is starting to feel again. And so she's suffered a lot of trauma, a lot of loss, just things that happen in life, right? And so sometimes when that happens, you can feel like you're stuck in a position of like down and lowliness. And in the film, she eventually starts to feel again, right? And so I wanted to create a motif that can really speak to that calling, okay, from the inward part of her that's calling. Now, what's really beautiful about this track, in my opinion, is this motif right here is being used yet again by the alto flutes, but this is actually a doubling in a sense, because in the string section, what's happening at this exact moment is the violas and the cello are playing this line again, and it's carrying this motif into a more thought out melody. So at the end, again, as you can see, they're all doing the same line. Jumps up. That's the viola that just came up top. And again, I really am trying to stretch myself and pull myself out of my comfort zone, because normally, like, for a track like this, or for a thought like this and a feeling like this, I tend to stick with this the superficial layer of composing emotions. And for this track, I really want to push myself to really get more mature, and that's why I didn't end on a major chord or super happy feeling moment. I kind of ended it to feel more ambiguous. It's very dramatic, but still, overall, you start to feel again, because when you start to feel again after you experience loss, the reality is that's just starting to feel again also comes with a lot of emotions. Some of them are good, or I should say some of them are positive, some of them are negative in terms of how we would categorize them, but they're feelings nonetheless, and we have to feel those feelings in order for us to continue to experience life and move on. Not to say move on as to forget the trauma or forget the people or forget the loss, but move on as in just to continue to live. So that's what that motif and melody really represents. At the end as well, we have the flute, and I'll also add the piano in there for you as well, so you can hear how that all kind of comes into play. I want to also go ahead now and show you what I think is probably one of the most important aspects of this cue, which is the textured strings. Here's what that sounds like. This is what's maintaining the majority of the chords for the string section, as well as this is what gives us that introduction sustained line. I just gotta pause it right there because I really, really love that pedal tone that's going on there at the E flat, right? Because this chord progression starts off in A flat, right? And so you have this pedal tone on the fifth, and it just sustains throughout the entire piece in different variations. But I really, really love it. So yeah, I'm gonna play that again. So in this section, I wanted no string bass there because I wanted it to feel a little bit more. Well, first of all, I wanted the track to be able to breathe a little bit. And with a track like this, where there's a lot of reverb, there's a lot of sustained elements, you got to find unique ways to let your track breathe. And to me, my personal opinion, with such a dramatic and emotionally charged track, adding and subtracting bass, knowing when to add that bass and knowing when to take it away, is a good way of allowing your track to breathe and letting your viewer and your audience to kind of breathe with it as well. Like, come on, you can't tell me that when that bass line hit, it didn't kind of do something to your soul, right? So that's the whole point of sometimes, letting that bass line out, so that when you bring it back in, it's like, whoa, it hits you. Okay, so that's the majority of the strings. Now the other string patches that I'm using are actually to add certain textures that these libraries didn't have. So at some point I'm using tremolo. I'm also using tremolo at the very beginning with the alto flutes. I'll be playing that soon. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and play those other elements, and I'm gonna add them slowly into the strings textured section, so you can hear how that kind of helps it. Okay, so I'm going to first start off with the alto flutes. Okay, so they're doing like a quick little trill here. All right, beautiful, just like a little trill. And obviously I showed you guys before this. It's just in the background going on, Okay, so now we're gonna add in some of the strings. We're gonna add in violin ones and violin twos. So here's what that sounds like. So the violin ones introduce harmonics. I also introduce trills at certain areas with the violin 2s. Here's where we first hear the violin 1s right here. It's like that high pitch, right? That high C. All the way up top. This is when the violin 2s enter right here, and they're doing a trill. Tremolo top. Okay, so funny story. I wanted to try to do a pitch bend for this line right here. Da, right, so I was trying to make it portamento in that way. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but I still like the overall effect of it, and so I left it in the track. So even though it's not portamento, it doesn't just glide or slide into there, but I did like how it hits the overall aesthetic of the track and helps lift it, because this is, when I play it next for you, this is where the bass comes in. Next, we're going to move on to showing you the entire string section, basically, minus the blueprint strings, because I just want to show you what it sounds like when that bass comes in by itself versus when it comes in with the gentle string patch. Okay, so now let's hear that with the gentle strings patch. And yeah, so there you have it, you guys. There is my track overall. I hope you guys really enjoyed this breakdown. I just hope that this serves as a cool breakdown for you, but also more importantly, a challenge to you as composers, filmmakers, creatives out there in general, whatever space and medium you're in, whether it's photography, art, you name it. Push yourself out of your comfort zone sometimes, and you never know just what treasures might lie around that corner. Thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe, like, share the video, and thank you again to Kris Bowers for constantly making, well, first of all, for always picking really awesome projects to work on, and for creating yet again another wonderfully amazing soundtrack for the film Origin. All right then, you guys, peace out.